I was holding a stranger's child's hand in the middle of a crowded airport when a group of men in black suits started running toward us. People were staring, phones were up, and for a second I thought they were coming to arrest me. My heart was beating so hard I could feel it in my throat. At that moment I had no idea his father was a billionaire. I had no idea that missing my flight, losing my own plans, would open a door I never even knew existed. Let me take you back to how it started. My name is Emily Carter. I am a single mom. My life is not special. At least that's what I used to think. I live in a small, noisy apartment above a laundromat. The walls are thin, the rent is high, and the neighbors fight at 2 a.m. about who took whose parking spot. I work at a supermarket on the edge of the city. I scan groceries, say, "Have a nice day," about 100 times, and hope the manager doesn't cut my hours. Every dollar I earn seems to fly away before I can even hold it. But I have one thing that makes it all worth it. My daughter, Lily. Lily is 7 years old. She has big brown eyes and messy hair that never wants to stay in a ponytail, no matter how many times I tie it. When she laughs, I forget I'm tired. When she hugs me, I forget how heavy the world feels. Her father left when she was 3. One day he was there shouting about bills. The next day his closet was empty and his phone number was disconnected. Since then it's just been me and her. So for us, a trip to the airport was a big thing. A very big thing. We were going to visit my sister, Claire, in another city. She had been begging me for years. Just come for a weekend. Lily can play with her cousins. You need a break. I always said the same thing. I can't afford it. Maybe next year. But this time, after months of saving, skipping dinners, saying no to small treats, I finally found a cheap flight. Not at a good time, not a good airline, but it was something. I checked the numbers again and again, maybe, just maybe, we could do it. So there we were that morning, standing outside the airport with 2 small suitcases, my old backpack, and Lily bouncing on her toes, too excited to stand still. "Mom, is this like in the movies?" she asked, looking at the big glass doors. I smiled, even though my shoulders already ached from the bags. Kind of, baby. Just with more lines and more grumpy people. We walked in and the noise hit us like a wave. Rolling suitcases, echoing voices, announcements from speakers that were too loud and too unclear. "Attention passengers. Gate B12. Final boarding call." The air smelled like coffee, perfume, and something fried. People were moving in every direction. Businessmen in dark suits, families with 3 kids and way too many bags, a young couple arguing softly near a check-in machine, a woman in heels walking so fast she almost ran. I held Lily's hand a little tighter. "Stay close to me, okay? Don't let go. There are a lot of people here." She nodded, her fingers tightening around mine. First came the check-in line. Felt like it never ended. I watched the numbers change on the digital boards while my feet slowly started to hurt. The line moved in little steps. 1 person forward. Stop. 1 person forward. Stop. Lily tugged at my sleeve. "Mom, can I have a snack?" "Not yet, baby," I said softly. "Let's get through security first." "But I'm hungry," she whispered. I looked into my wallet when she wasn't watching. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a few small bills, some coins. Enough for maybe a sandwich and a drink. Maybe. I thought of the month ahead. Rent, electricity, school supplies, shoes that Lily was already growing out of. "We'll get something," I promised her. "Just wait a little, okay?" By the time we reached security, my back hurt from the bags. We took our shoes off, put our things in gray plastic bins, walked through the scanner. Lily giggled when the machine beeped at the old man in front of us. For a moment I laughed too. On the other side of security we collected our things and I checked my watch. We had some time before boarding. Not much. Just enough to get to our gate, maybe buy 1 snack to share. The airport felt even busier near the gates. People sat in rows of gray chairs, some sleeping with their mouths open, some staring at phones, some trying to keep their kids from running away. There were big windows showing airplanes outside, their noses pressed to the sky like they were waiting for something. We found our gate and sat down in the only 2 empty seats we could find. Lily pressed her face to the window. "Is that our plane?" she asked. I checked the screen. "No, eso es. Ours is the one that leaves in an hour. See." I pointed at the information board. Flight 247. On time. For now. She nodded, pretending she understood. I let out a long breath and finally dropped my bag at my feet. For a second I just sat there staring at nothing. My mind was doing the math again. If this trip cost this much and my next paycheck was this much and rent was due in 10 days, would we be okay? Could I make it work? I felt that familiar tightness in my chest, that worry I carried all the time like an invisible backpack. Then Lily spoke softly. Mom, look. Her voice had changed. It wasn't excited or whiny. It was careful. I followed her gaze. That's when I saw him. A small boy stood near a pillar about 10 meters from us. He had a little blue backpack on, one strap hanging off his shoulder. His hair was light brown and a bit messy, like someone had brushed it quickly and then forgotten about it. He wore jeans and a red hoodie. He looked normal. Just another kid in the airport. But something was wrong. He was alone. There were people all around him, but no one seemed to belong to him. No one was holding his hand, no one was bending down to talk to him. He kept turning his head, his eyes searching the crowd. Every few seconds his mouth moved. At first I couldn't hear what he was saying. Then he rubbed his eyes with his fist. Where's his mom? Lily whispered. I'm sure she's nearby, I said, though I wasn't really sure. I told myself to mind my own business. People lose sight of their kids for a second all the time. Maybe his parent was at the coffee shop right there. Maybe they were in the bathroom. Maybe they were just out of my view. I didn't want to overreact. And I definitely didn't want someone to think I was trying to take their child. I looked away and tried to focus on the screen above our gate. But my eyes kept going back to him. He took a step one way, then the other. His backpack slid lower. He pulled it up again with a small hop. He turned around slowly, like maybe if he turned one more time his mom or dad would suddenly appear. No one did. I saw his mouth move again. This time I caught it. Mom, he whispered, so quietly that even his own voice sounded unsure. My heart squeezed. I know that voice. Not his exact voice, but that sound. The sound of a child who feels they are about to cry but is trying not to. The sound of fear that hasn't turned into tears yet. I thought of Lily. What if it were her? What if she was standing there alone, clutching her backpack in a sea of strangers? I swallowed. Maybe we should wait. Maybe an airport worker will come. I told myself silently. Seconds felt longer and longer. No one came. The boy's shoulders shook. He wiped at his eyes again, harder. People walked around him like he was an invisible pole in the middle of the floor. A woman pushing a stroller almost hit him, then went around him without even looking at his face. Mom, he's crying, Lily said, her voice more urgent. I saw it too now. His little chin was shaking. His eyes were shining with tears he was trying to hold in. Something inside me broke a little. There was a night years ago, when I sat on my kitchen floor after Lily's father left. There was one bill in my hand and 3 more on the table. I had no idea how I would pay them. Lily was asleep in the next room. I pressed my fist to my mouth to stop myself from making a sound. I was afraid that if I started crying I would never stop. That night I felt lost just like that boy. Alone in a world that moved too fast around me. People had their own problems. No one saw me. Now I was looking at a smaller version of that same feeling. I stood up. Lily looked up at me. Where are you going, Mom? I'll just check, okay? I said. Stay right here. Don't move. Keep your backpack on. Her eyes were serious. Okay. I took a slow breath, picked up my own bag, then left it again at Lily's feet. I walked toward the boy, my steps light, careful, like I was approaching a scared animal. As I got closer I could see him more clearly. His face was wet now. His hands were shaking a little as he held the strap of his backpack. His lower lip trembled. He looked up at me when he heard my footsteps. For a second I stopped. I didn't want to scare him. I bent my knees a bit so I wouldn't tower over him and gave him what I hoped was a gentle smile. Hey, sweetie, I said slowly. Are you okay? He sniffed and wiped his nose with the back of his hand. He shook his head just a tiny bit. Are you lost? I asked. His mouth opened then closed. He took a breath like saying the words made it too real. I can't find my dad, he mumbled. His voice was so small that I had to lean in to hear him. The noise of the airport washed around us, but in that moment, It felt like there was just a bubble around the two of us. Okay, I said softly. Okay. What's your name? Jake, he said, almost like a question. Jaka. My name is Emily, I answered. How old are you, Jake? 6, he said, rubbing his eyes again. 6. That's a big age, I said, trying to keep my voice light. Where did you last see your dad? He pointed to a row of chairs a little distance away. He sat me there, he said. He said, stay here, Jake. I'll be right back. Don't move. So I didn't. I sat and sat and sat. But he didn't come back. I went to find him, but now I don't know where I am. His voice broke on the last words. He had done what so many parents tell their children. Stay in one place. Obey. But when his dad didn't come back, fear had pushed him to move. Now the rule was broken and the world felt even bigger and more confusing. I looked where he pointed. The chairs were almost all taken now. People had come and gone. If his father had been there, he wasn't there now. I forced myself not to panic for him. Okay, I repeated. Okay, Jake. We're going to find him, all right? You're not alone now. He looked at me like he wasn't sure if he could trust that. Behind him, I noticed something I hadn't seen before. On the strap of his little blue backpack was a small white tag. It had his name written in neat black letters. Jake King. Under that, there was a phone number. My shoulders loosened a bit. A phone number. Good. This would help. Jake, is this your bag? I asked, pointing. He nodded. Can I look at this tag? I pointed again, letting him see what I wanted. He sniffed but nodded again. I leaned a little closer and read the number. It was a cell phone number, 10 digits, nothing strange about it. Under the number, in smaller letters, there was one more line. If lost, please call. I pulled my own phone from my pocket. For a second, my finger hovered over the screen. I was suddenly aware of how alone I was in this. There was no official badge on my chest. No uniform. I was just a woman in cheap jeans and old sneakers, about to make a call that could change everything. Do you know your dad's whole name? I asked just to be sure. He nodded. His name is Daniel. Daniel King. The name meant nothing to me in that moment. Just 2 simple words. Okay, Jake, I said. I'm going to call this number, all right? Maybe it's your dad's phone. Or your mom's. Or someone who knows where he is. He looked at my phone like it was magic. Will he be mad? Jake whispered. I thought of all the times I had been late picking up Lily from school, how her eyes searched the crowd of parents until she saw me, the relief on her face. I thought about how I would feel if someone kind had waited with her. If he is a good dad, he will be grateful you stayed where people could see you, I said. You did the right thing. And I'm going to stay right here with you, okay? He nodded slowly. His small hand reached out and caught the edge of my jacket, like he needed to hold onto something solid. I dialed the number on the tag. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Please pick up, I thought. 4 times. 5. And then a cold female voice. The number you have dialed is currently switched off. Please try again later. I pulled the phone away from my ear and stared at the screen for a second, then at Jake. It's not working, he asked, his voice shaking. I didn't want to show him my worry, so I forced a small smile. Sometimes phones run out of battery, I said. It's okay. We have other ways to find your dad. We can talk to airport staff, all right? They have special radios and things. I looked over my shoulder at the crowd near our gate. No one seemed to be searching for a missing child. No one was shouting his name. No one looked panicked. A small knot of fear tightened in my stomach. I turned my head to check on Lily. She was sitting where I left her, hugging her backpack, watching us with big eyes. When she saw me look, she raised her hand in a small wave. I'm right here, Mom, she mouthed. I nodded. My mind started to move faster now. Okay. The number is off. That doesn't mean something terrible. Could be nothing. But the longer this goes on, the more dangerous it can become. People in uniforms. We need people in uniforms. All right, Jake, I said. We're going to go talk to the nice people at the desk over there. See that counter? I pointed to the gate's help desk where a woman in a navy blazer was scanning boarding passes. They can make an announcement. They can call someone. You just have to stay with me, okay? He looked at my hand. Then very slowly he reached out and slipped his small fingers into mine. His hand was warm and a little sweaty. "Don't leave me," he whispered. I swallowed the lump in my throat. "I won't," I said. We took a step together. At that exact moment, a voice echoed over the speakers above us. "Attention, passengers. This is the final boarding call for Flight 247 to New York. Final boarding call for Flight 247. The gate will close in 5 minutes." I stopped walking. Flight 247. Our flight. I looked back at Lily. She was looking up at the speakers, then at me. Her eyes were confused. "Mom, that's our plane," she said, her voice small. I checked the big screen above the gate just to make sure. There it was. Flight 247. Boarding. Final call. My chest tightened. We had planned for this trip for months. I had promised Lily. We were finally going to see Aunt Claire. I had begged my boss to give me these days off. Missing this flight meant maybe no trip. No refund. No new tickets. The money I had saved so carefully would be gone with the plane. I looked at Lily. I looked at Jake, his hand in mine, his eyes wide with fear. "Mom," Lily said again. "What do we do?" I could feel people starting to line up again. A last rush of late passengers running to the gate with flapping boarding passes. The woman at the desk was calling out names. Somewhere, a door was going to close soon, and our names would not be on the other side. I stood there between my own daughter and this lost boy, between my long-awaited trip and someone else's missing child. For a few long seconds I didn't move. In my head, arguments started to shout over each other. "You have to think of Lily. You promised her. You can't lose that money. But what if no one helps him? What if he wanders off? What if something happens to him? It's not your problem. You didn't lose him. His dad should have stayed. Why should you pay for his mistake? If Lily was the one standing here alone, would you want someone to say, 'It's not my problem'?" The speaker repeated. "Final boarding call." I realized my hand was shaking inside Jake's. He noticed. His grip tightened. "Please don't leave," he said. His voice so quiet I could barely hear it under the noise. I exhaled slowly. "Okay," I said, more to myself than to anyone else. I bent down to Jake's level and looked him in the eyes. "I am not going anywhere," I told him. "We are going to find your dad. I promise." I lifted my head and looked at Lily. Her eyes were glossy, maybe with tears she didn't want to show. "I'm sorry, baby," I said. "We might miss our flight." She looked at Jake. She looked at me. She bit her lip. "It's okay, Mom," she whispered. He looks more scared than me. In that moment, my 7-year-old daughter was braver than I felt. The line at the gate moved. The agent called, "Last passenger for Flight 247, please approach the desk." Last passenger. I turned away from the gate. I turned away from the trip I had planned. I turned toward the help desk with Jake's small hand in mine and Lily following close behind. I thought I knew what this decision would cost me. I would tell myself later. I thought it was just a flight, just a weekend. I was wrong. That choice in that noisy corner of the airport would change everything. Because I had no idea who Jake's father really was. The agent's voice faded behind us as we walked away from our gate. I didn't look back again. I couldn't. I knew if I turned around and saw that jet bridge door closing, my heart would break a little. Instead, I kept my eyes on the help desk ahead and on the little boy's hand in mine. His fingers were still tight around mine, like he was afraid I might slip away into the crowd. Lily walked on my other side, her backpack bouncing with each step. She kept glancing up at me, then at Jake, then at the screens. She didn't complain. She didn't cry. But I could see in her face that she understood something important had just changed. We reached the counter for our gate. A woman in a navy blazer and bright red lipstick was scanning boarding passes, moving quickly, her eyes tired. Her name tag said Karen. That felt right somehow. She looked like she had dealt with way too many angry passengers that day. When she saw me step up without a boarding pass in my hand, she didn't smile. "Ma'am, are you boarding this flight?" she asked in a practiced, firm voice. Her eyes flicked to Jake, then to Lily. I shook my head. "I think this boy is lost," I said. "He can't find his dad." Jake pressed closer to my side. Karen's expression changed a little. The work mask slipped. A softer look came through. Lost? She repeated. Sweetheart, where's your mommy or daddy? I don't know, he said, his voice very small. We tried calling the number on his bag, I added quickly. It switched off. She nodded slowly. All right. Stay right here. She picked up a phone behind the counter, dialed a short number and lowered her voice. I caught only parts of what she said. Unattended minor. No guardian present. Yes, at gate C14. Name is Jake King. She paused, listening, then hung up and turned back to us. Security is on their way, she said. They'll help find his father. The word security made my stomach tighten. It sounded serious, heavy, like there might be trouble. I forced myself to breathe. This was the right thing. The safest thing. I was just a stranger trying to help. Karen leaned over the counter a little and offered Jake a weak smile. Hey buddy. Want a lollipop? She asked, pulling a small basket from under the desk. He shook his head. You can have one, Lily whispered to him. It's okay. He took one, not really interested in the candy but maybe glad that someone cared. We stepped to the side so we wouldn't block the people still boarding. I watched them go one by one, handing over their passes, walking through the door. Some looked angry, some bored, some tired. None of them knew that two kids and a woman standing just a few feet away had just stepped off their own path. I could see the end of our trip in that door. Then, with a soft click, the agent closed it. She flipped the sign from boarding to closed. The plane we were supposed to be on was leaving without us. I swallowed and pushed that feeling down. Later, I told myself. Think about it later. For now, Jake. He stood very quiet, clutching the lollipop stick but not eating it. Do you remember anything else, Jake? I asked. What did your dad say before he left you at the chairs? He frowned, trying to remember. He said, stay right here, don't move. I'll be right back. I need to take a call. Did he say where he was going? He shook his head. Have you flown with him before? I asked. He nodded. Sometimes. Does he usually leave you alone like that? I couldn't help asking. He hesitated, then shrugged. He has to work a lot. That answer sat in my chest like a small stone. I glanced at Lily. She was watching us, listening to every word. I wondered what she thought. Her dad didn't leave her alone in airports. He just left her life altogether. Was that better or worse? I didn't know. Do you know your dad's job? I asked slowly. Like, what does he do? He, Jake's brows pulled together. He owns things. Owns things. I repeated, a little amused. Yeah. Buildings and planes. And lots of people work for him. There are always people in suits around him. They talk on those little earphones and they say yes sir a lot. He made a serious face when he said, yes sir. And for a second I wanted to laugh. But it also made something in my mind raise a red flag. Buildings. Planes. People in suits. I thought maybe his dad was just bragging to him. Rich people, poor people, they all tell stories to their kids. Kids hear them and repeat them. Maybe his dad owned one store and told Jake it was an empire. I tried not to read too much into it. Is your dad famous? Lily asked before I could stop her. Jake looked at her. Think so. People ask for pictures sometimes. And one time he was on TV in a suit talking about money and stuff. I fell asleep. You fell asleep? Lily giggled. Yeah. Grown-up stuff is boring. They both giggled then, and for a second the tension melted. I was about to ask him more when I saw two men in uniform walking toward us. Dark blue shirts, badges, radios at their shoulders. Airport security. Here we go, I whispered to myself. They stopped in front of us. One was tall and serious, early 40s, with short hair and tired eyes. The other was younger, maybe late 20s, with a softer face and a bit of worry already on his forehead. Their name tags read Martinez and Clark. Officer Martinez spoke first. Ma'am, we were told you found an unattended child, he asked. His tone was polite but measured. Careful. I straightened a little, suddenly very aware that I was holding Jake's hand. Yes, I said. He says he can't find his father. We called the number on his bag. It's turned off. We came straight here. Martinez's eyes moved from me to Jake. His expression changed just slightly when he saw the boy's face. What's your name, buddy? he asked. Jake, he answered quietly. Last name. King. Martinez's eyes flicked to Clark for a second. It was quick, but I saw it. A tiny flash of something. Recognition?
Surprise?
Then his gaze came back to me. How long have you been with him, ma'am? Martinez asked. Maybe 15 minutes? I said. I saw him standing alone. No adults around. He looked scared. I couldn't leave him. Clark pulled out a small notepad. And your name, ma'am? He asked. Emily Carter, I said. That's my daughter, Lily. We were supposed to be on that flight to New York, but we stayed to help him. Clark wrote it down. For some reason, seeing my name in his notebook made me nervous. I tried to ignore it. Do you have ID? Martinez asked gently. Yes, of course, I said quickly. I pulled my worn wallet from my back pocket, trying not to let my hands shake, and handed over my driver's license. They both studied it for a moment. Then Martinez gave it back. Thank you, he said. He crouched slightly to talk to Jake. Jake, do you know your dad's full name? He asked. Daniel King, Jake replied. There it was again. That look between the two officers. This time I was sure. They recognized the name. Martinez cleared his throat. Do you know your dad's phone number? He asked. Jake pointed to his backpack. It's on there. We tried to call it, I said. It's switched off. Okay, Martinez nodded. Jake, do you know what airline you're flying with today? Or what city you're going to? New York, Jake said. And, his face screwed up as he tried to remember. We came in a black car with dark windows. There was a driver. We went through a different door. Not like this one. A different door? I repeated, confused. VIP entrance, Clark murmured. Martinez nodded, almost to himself. Then he spoke quietly into his radio, turning his body slightly away from us. I caught words like possible VIP minor, and name matches and inform coordination. I felt more and more out of place by the second. VIP minor. Coordination. Clark stayed with us. He looked at me, then at Lily, then carefully at our suitcases. So, Miss Carter, he said, you were just sitting at the gate and saw him alone? Yes, I said. We were waiting to board. My daughter noticed him first. He was crying. No one seemed to be with him. I waited a bit, thinking maybe his parents were near. But no one came. So I went to talk to him. Clark nodded slowly, writing everything down. And you called the number on his tag immediately? He asked. As soon as I saw it, I said. I didn't want anyone to think I was, doing anything wrong. He looked up at me then, really looked, and some of the stiffness in his face softened. I understand, he said. Thank you for staying with him. It was a simple sentence, but it made my chest loosen a bit. Jake's hand squeezed mine again as Martinez came back to us. Okay, Martinez said. We've contacted our central office. They're checking the name now and trying to reach his father. Carter, we'll need you to stay with us for a few minutes if that's all right. Of course, I said, though the words "need you to stay" made my heart beat faster. Lily tugged on my sleeve. Mom, she whispered. What if they think we did something bad? They won't, I whispered back, even though a small part of me wasn't so sure. We're just helping. It's okay. We moved away from the gate area to a quieter corner near a window. Planes rolled slowly outside. The world continued like nothing special was happening. Inside, our little group existed in its own strange bubble. Jake let go of my hand just long enough to open his lollipop. He looked at it like he didn't really want it, but he put it in his mouth anyway. Maybe because it gave him something to do. Do you feel better? I asked him gently. A little, he said. Are they mad at me? Who? I asked. He nodded toward security. Them. No, I said. They just want to help you find your dad. That's their job. He seemed to think about that. What's your job? He asked me suddenly. I smiled a little. I work at a supermarket. What do you do there? He asked. I help people pay for their groceries, I said. I scan their food and take their money. That sounds boring, he said honestly. I laughed softly. Sometimes it is. What's your job? He asked Lily. I go to school, she said proudly. He nodded. That's a good job. We're going to visit my aunt, Lily added. But we missed our plane. For me? He asked, eyes wide. Lily looked at me. I nodded. Yeah, she said. But it's okay. We can go another time. Jake's eyes filled with guilt. I'm sorry, he whispered. Hey, no, I cut in quickly. This is not your fault, Jake. Do you hear me? You didn't do anything wrong. Your dad will come. We'll figure it out. As I said the words, I hoped they were true. A few minutes passed like that, slow and heavy. Martinez spoke into his radio a few more times. Clark stood nearby watching the crowd. The airport announcements called other flights, other names. Somewhere a baby cried. Somewhere else, a man laughed too loudly into his phone. Then Martinez's radio crackled again. The voice on the other end was too low for me to understand, but I watched his face carefully. His jaw tightened. His eyes narrowed. Then he nodded. Copy that, he said into the radio. We have him at C-14. Child is safe. I repeat, child is safe. Yes, ma'am. Understood. He clipped the radio back and turned to us. Is everything all right? I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. He studied me for a second like he was deciding how much to say. Ms. Carter, he began carefully. We were able to confirm that Jake's father is in the airport. He was in a meeting room in a different area. He is on his way now. Relief washed through me. Thank God, I breathed. Jake's eyes lit up. My dad is here, he asked. Yes, buddy, Clark said, smiling. He's coming. When? Jake asked. Right now. Martinez glanced at his watch. Very soon, he said. Something about the way he said very soon made my skin prickle. It wasn't just a father walking over from a nearby chair. It sounded bigger. More serious. Like they weren't just bringing one person, like they were moving half an army. Is he mad? Jake asked, chewing his lower lip. I think he's worried, Martinez said. But we told him you're safe. Jake nodded slowly, but his fingers curled back around my hand as if he didn't want to let go just yet. Martinez turned his attention back to me. Ms. Carter, he said quietly. I need to ask you a few more questions. Just protocol. Okay. I said, my worry returning. Did anyone else talk to Jake before you? He asked. I don't think so, I said. At least, I didn't see anyone. He was just standing there. Everyone was walking past him. Did anyone approach you? He asked. Ask you to watch him? Tell you anything about him? No, I said firmly. I saw a scared boy. That's all. I came over on my own. He nodded slowly, looking satisfied with that answer. And you haven't left his side since? He asked. Only to walk from our seats to here, I said. But he was always with me. All right, he said. Thank you. I was about to ask why all this felt so intense when something changed in the air around us. I could feel it before I saw it. The noise level seemed to dip for a second, like a wave pulling back before it crashes. People turned their heads in one direction, as if pulled by an invisible string. Phones came out of pockets and bags. Murmurs started, soft at first, then stronger. I followed everyone's eyes. 3 men in black suits were walking quickly down the hall toward us. They wore serious expressions and small earpieces in their ears. Their movements were sharp, alert. They didn't look around like normal people. They scanned. They watched. People moved out of their way without even realizing they were doing it. Behind them, just a few steps back, walked a man I had seen before. Not in real life. On screens. In newspapers. On the tiny TV behind the customer service desk at the supermarket. He was tall, with dark hair and a clean-shaven jaw. He wore a perfectly cut dark gray suit that probably cost more than everything I was wearing put together. His tie was simple, his watch expensive but not flashy. His shoulders were straight, his steps fast but controlled. He walked like someone who was used to people making way for him. For a second, my mind tried to place him. Where had I seen that face? Then it hit me. I remembered standing in the break room at work, watching a news story about some business deal. A reporter saying, "Billionaire investor Daniel King." While a picture of this same man flashed on the screen. My mouth went dry. King. Jake King. Before I could even fully process it, Jake saw him too. "Dad!" he cried, his voice breaking, and let go of my hand for the first time. He ran forward. One of the men in suits instinctively reached out, then saw who it was and stepped aside. The tall man dropped to his knees and opened his arms. Jake crashed into his chest. "I'm here, buddy," the man said, wrapping his arms around his son so tightly I could almost feel it from where I stood. His voice, which I had heard only on TV before, was lower, rawer in person. "I'm here. I'm so sorry." Jake clung to him, burying his face in the man's shoulder. His small body shook with pent-up fear and relief. The world around them seemed to pause. People watched, some with soft eyes, some with phones raised, filming, already thinking of the headlines. I stood there, Lily at my side, suddenly feeling very small. My cheap sneakers, my old jeans, my tired eyes. All of it felt bigger now, more obvious in the bright light of his world. I didn't know where to look. Part of me wanted to give them privacy, look away, pretend I wasn't there. Another part of me couldn't stop watching this rich, powerful man hold his scared little boy like the most expensive thing he owned. One of the suited men whispered something into his earpiece, then glanced at us. His eyes were sharp, evaluating. Martinez and Clark straightened as the group approached. The air around us tightened. The man, Daniel King, stood up slowly, keeping one arm around Jake's shoulders. He looked at the officers first. "Thank you," he said. His voice was calmer now, but there was an edge to it. "Where was he?" "With this woman, sir," Martinez said, nodding toward me. "She found him near the seating area and brought him to the gate staff. She called the number on his tag. She stayed with him." Daniel's gaze shifted. It was like a spotlight turning from one subject to another. For the first time, his eyes landed on me. He looked at my face, my worn clothes, my tired posture. He took in Lily beside me, hugging her backpack close, staring at him with wide eyes. For a moment, his expression was unreadable. Cool. Measuring. Then Jake tugged on his sleeve. "Dad, this is Emily," he said, pointing at me. "She helped me. She didn't leave. She missed her plane." I saw something change in Daniel's eyes then, just a flicker. The cool mask cracked a little. He stepped closer. "Ms. Emily," he said. "Carter," I added quickly. "Emily Carter." "Miss Carter," he repeated. "Thank you for staying with my son." His words were polite, correct. But his tone was still a little distant. It sounded like something he said often in business meetings. "Thank you for your time. Thank you for your offer." Not deeply personal. "Not yet." I nodded, suddenly unsure what to say. "It's okay," I managed. He was scared. I couldn't walk away. The man in the suit closest to him, a broad-shouldered guy with a shaved head, stepped slightly forward. "Sir, we should move to a more private area," he said. "This is too exposed. There are cameras everywhere." I realized he didn't mean security cameras. He meant phones. People had already started to gather, pretending not to stare, but their hands were lifted, screens glowing. Daniel glanced around and saw what his man meant. His jaw tightened. He turned back to Martinez. "Is there a room we can use?" he asked. "Yes, sir," Martinez said. "We can take you to the family room near security." He nodded. Then he looked at me again. "You too, Ms. Carter," he said. "Please come with us." My heart skipped. "Me?" I asked. "Why? I mean, do you need me? I can go." "It's fine. You have him now." His brow furrowed just slightly. "I would like to thank you properly," he said, his eyes holding mine. The way he said it, I felt like thank meant more than just a word. But I also saw something else in his look, caution. He wanted to know more about the strange woman who had been holding his child's hand. Behind me, Lily tugged at my jacket again. "Mom?" she whispered. I turned to her and knelt down so we were eye to eye. "Hey," I said softly. "We're going to walk with them for a few minutes, okay? It's just to talk. Then we'll see about our flight." She nodded, trusting me completely the way only a child can. As we joined the small group moving down the hall, 2 officers, 3 men in suits, a billionaire, a lost boy, a single mom and her daughter. I felt like I had stepped into a movie that wasn't mine. The world looked the same. Same shiny floors, same bright lights, same announcements. But everything felt different now. People watched us as we passed. Some recognized Daniel King right away. I saw lips forming his name. Is that? Oh my God, that's him. Some people pointed at Jake, then at me, probably already building their own story in their heads. Poor woman. Nanny. Kidnapper. Fan. Gold digger. Angel. Who knew what they thought? None of them knew the truth. I was just a tired supermarket cashier who loved her daughter more than anything, who had made one impulsive choice to help a scared little boy, and somehow found herself walking beside one of the richest men in the country. I didn't know it yet, but that walk was only the beginning. I thought all that was going to happen was a thank you, maybe a gift card, maybe a photo with a famous person that I could show my sister and laugh about later. I had no idea that this thank you would turn into an offer that would shake my whole life. I glanced at Jake, who was walking pressed close to his father's side now, one small hand firmly gripping the expensive fabric of his jacket. Then I looked at Lily, who was quietly taking everything in. In that moment, in that small group moving through a river of strangers, I felt something shift inside me. I didn't know what it was yet, but I knew one thing clearly. Whatever this was, whatever world I had just stepped into, there was no going back to normal after it. And as we followed security through a door marked authorized personnel only, I realized I was about to find out exactly who Daniel King really was, and why the officers had looked so nervous when they heard his name. The hallway behind the authorized personnel only door was quieter, the lights a little softer, the air cooler. It felt like a different side of the airport, one that regular people like me weren't supposed to see. We walked in a small group. The two officers in front, then Daniel with Jake glued to his side, then the three men in suits, and finally me and Lily at the back. I kept thinking, what am I doing here? I had never felt more out of place in my life. We passed closed doors with small signs: staff only, operations, security office. The steady hum of the airport was muffled now. No more calling of flight numbers. No more chattering crowds. Just the echo of our footsteps and the crackle of radios on the officers' shoulders. Lily looked up at me and whispered, "Mom, are we in trouble?" I squeezed her hand. "No, baby," I whispered back. "We're just helping." Helping. The word sounded so small next to the man walking just a few steps ahead of us. I could see the back of his suit jacket, smooth and sharp. Jake's small hand like a little anchor on the fabric. After a short walk, we reached a door marked family room. Officer Martinez opened it and held it for us. Inside, the room was simple but comfortable. A few couches, a low table, a water cooler, some tissue boxes, a small TV on the wall playing silent news. The kind of room people are taken to when something serious has happened, good or bad. "Please have a seat," Martinez said. Daniel guided Jake to a couch and sat beside him. The men in suits took positions near the walls, watchful. Lily stood next to me, her backpack still on. I suddenly became very aware that I didn't know where to put my hands. I decided to sit at the end of the same couch but gave them some space. Officer Clark closed the door and stayed near it, his posture relaxed but alert. For a moment no one spoke. The TV showed pictures of traffic, a reporter moving her lips silently. I could feel the tension in the room like static in the air. Daniel broke the silence first. He turned to Jake and brushed a hand through his hair. "Are you all right?" he asked softly. Jake nodded but didn't let go of his father's sleeve. "I'm sorry, Dad," he mumbled. "I stayed where you told me. I really did. But then you didn't come back and I got scared." Daniel closed his eyes for a second, like the words hurt him more than anything. "That's my fault," he said quietly. "Not yours. I shouldn't have left you alone that long. I lost track of time." He sounded angry, but it was at himself. I looked away, giving them a moment. My eyes landed on Lily. She was watching them, her face thoughtful. I wondered what she was comparing. Fathers who forget. Fathers who leave. Fathers who never come back. After a minute, Officer Martinez cleared his throat gently. "Mr. King," he began, his voice respectful. "I know this isn't the best time, but we do need to go over what happened. For security reasons." Daniel nodded slowly, his business face sliding back into place. "Of course," he said. "Go ahead." Martinez took out his notepad. "Can you tell us where you were when your son walked away from the seating area?" he asked. Daniel exhaled. "I received a message from my office," he said. An urgent matter regarding an overseas deal. They had set up a private conference room for a video call. It was supposed to be 5 minutes. I told Jake to sit and not move, that I would be right back. He paused, his jaw tightening. The call ran longer, he said quietly. 15 minutes. Maybe 20. When I came back out, he was gone. And you didn't have a bodyguard with him? Martinez asked carefully. Daniel shook his head. They were with me, he said. We went in together. I told them we would be quick. I made a bad choice. The man with the shaved head spoke up then. Sir, that was my mistake as well, he said. I should have insisted on leaving at least one of us with your son. Daniel gave him a sharp look but then nodded, like he would deal with that later. And your phone, sir? Martinez asked. We tried the number on the child's bag. It was switched off. Daniel's mouth stretched into a tired line. I left it in the conference room during the call, he said. I didn't realize until I was already looking for him. By then I was running, not thinking. He looked down at Jake again. I'm sorry, he repeated. Jake pressed himself closer. It's okay, he mumbled into his father's sleeve. Emily stayed with me. Daniel's eyes shifted back to me. Yes, he said. Emily stayed with you. He studied me for a long second, like I was a puzzle he wasn't sure how to solve. I felt my cheeks get warm. Martinez followed his gaze. Ms. Carter, he said, you understand we have to ask these questions. There are people in this world who see a lost child and think of money, not safety. I get it, I said, my voice a little shaky. I'd probably be suspicious too. But all I did was what I'd want someone to do for my daughter. Lily spoke up then, her small voice clear. He was crying, she said. Nobody helped him. Mom waited, but no one came, so she went. Daniel turned to her. It was the first time he'd really looked at Lily. What's your name? He asked. Lily, she said. Lily, he repeated softer. Thank you for telling your mom about Jake. She smiled a little, shy but proud. Martinez finished his notes. All right, he said. From our side, everything looks clear. Miss Carter, thank you again. You can go, unless Mr. King needs anything else from you. We will write this up as a lost child safely reunited with his guardian. Thank you, officers, Daniel said, inclining his head. They nodded and stepped out, closing the door behind them. Now it was just us and the suits. The quiet grew heavier. Daniel leaned back slightly on the couch, one arm still around Jake. He looked at me in a way that made me feel like I was sitting in an interview I hadn't prepared for. You missed your flight because of this, he said. It wasn't a question. Yeah, I said, trying to sound casual like it was nothing. We can figure it out. Do you have another flight booked? He asked. I shook my head. No, that was our only ticket. I don't know if I can afford another one. As soon as I said it, I wished I could take it back. I didn't want to sound like I was asking for something. I just wanted to be honest. He noticed. I could tell. Where were you going? He asked. To visit my sister, I said. My daughter hasn't seen her cousins in a long time. He nodded slowly. Jake shifted, pulling the lollipop from his mouth. Dad, can they come with us? He asked suddenly. Daniel blinked. What do you mean? To New York, Jake said. They were going there too. We have a big plane, right? There's room. I stared at him, shocked. I hadn't even known where Daniel was heading. Now the idea of our big plane sounded like something from a movie. Jake, I began. That's very sweet, but... Daniel held up a hand gently to stop me. We are going to New York, he said slowly. On my jet. It leaves in... He checked his watch. About an hour. I stared. Jet. Not just business class. Not just first class. An actual private plane. Lily's mouth dropped open a little. You have your own plane, she whispered, like she wasn't sure she should say it out loud. He gave a half smile. Yes, he said. Ido. I suddenly became hyper-aware of everything. The frayed strap of my bag, the cheap watch on my wrist, the stain on my sneaker I hadn't noticed before. I felt like I was standing in a spotlight I hadn't asked for. I can't, I started. We can't just go on your plane. That's too much. You don't have to do that. He watched me carefully. Ms. Carter, he said. You stayed with my son, a stranger's child, when you could have walked away. You missed your own flight. You calmed him down. You did more than most people would do." He paused as if choosing his words. "Let me at least get you where you were trying to go," he said. I looked at Lily. Her eyes were wide with hope. "Mom," she whispered. "Please." My chest tightened. In my mind, the numbers started lining up again. How much I had saved. How much I had risked. How long it would take to save enough for another trip if I refused this. Months. Maybe a year. But this wasn't just about money. It was about pride. Safety. Trust. I took a slow breath. "Is it safe?" I asked, feeling stupid as soon as the words left my mouth. One of the suited men almost laughed, but Daniel gave him a look and he stopped. "It's safer than any commercial flight," Daniel said simply. "My crew is handpicked. The jet is inspected constantly. We don't cut corners." He paused. "But more important," he added, "you and your daughter have been through enough today. You shouldn't be punished for doing the right thing." I looked down at my hands in my lap. I thought of all the times life had seemed unfair. All the times I'd done the right thing, and felt like it only made my life harder. And here suddenly was a moment where the right thing might actually bring me something good. I didn't fully trust it. Felt too easy. Too much like a fairy tale. Still I met his eyes. "Are you sure?" I asked. "I don't want you to feel forced." He tilted his head slightly, almost amused. "Emily," he said, "I am not used to being forced into anything." Something about the way he said my name made a small shiver run up my spine. Not in a romantic way. In a "this man is used to being in control of every room he walks into" way. "Okay," I said at last, my voice quiet. "Thank you." Lily gasped softly. "Really?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "But we are going as guests, not as beggars. Understand?" She nodded quickly. "Yes, Mom." Jake clapped once, excited. "Yay," he said. "We can sit together." Daniel's mouth curved into a real smile for the first time since I'd seen him. "Maybe," he said. "We'll see what the seating looks like." One of the men in suits stepped forward then. The one with the shaved head. "Sir, I'll let the crew know," he said. "We'll add 2 passengers." Daniel nodded. "Do it." The man left the room, speaking into his earpiece. For a moment things felt almost normal. 2 kids excited about flying. 2 adults sitting on a couch talking about flights. Then Daniel turned his full attention back to me, and the feeling shifted again. "Ms. Carter," he said, "may I ask you something?" "Sure," I replied, suddenly nervous. "Why didn't you just tell an employee and walk away?" He asked. "Why stay? Why risk missing your own flight?" His eyes weren't cold now. They were curious. Almost searching. I thought for a second. "Because I know what it feels like to be small and scared and alone," I said simply. "And I know what it feels like when nobody helps." I took a breath and went on. "When my daughter's father left, I felt lost. Not in an airport but in life. People saw me struggling. Some helped. Most didn't. I promised myself back then that if I ever saw someone else lost, and I could help, I would." I shrugged, a little embarrassed. "It wasn't a big thought," I added. "It was just a feeling. I saw him crying and I saw me. And I saw my daughter. That's all." He listened to every word like it was part of a business pitch. But when I finished, his expression was different. Softer. More human. "That's not all," he said quietly. "That's everything." We sat in silence for a moment, the kids whispering to each other at the other end of the couch. Then I remembered something. "Oh," I said, "I didn't even ask. Do you have a wife? I mean, does Jake's mother know he was lost? She must be worried." The question slipped out before I could stop it. My curiosity had gotten ahead of my manners. His jaw tightened again, just a little. "Jake's mother passed away 3 years ago," he said. His tone was calm, but the words landed heavy in the room. I felt like someone had punched the air from my lungs. "I'm so sorry," I said quickly. "I shouldn't have asked like that." It's all right," he cut in gently. "You didn't know." He glanced at Jake, then back at me. "It's been hard on him," he said. "And on me. I try to give him everything. But I fail sometimes." He didn't say the last part loudly, but I heard it clearly. I looked at Jake, who was now showing Lily something on a keychain attached to his backpack. He looked like any other kid. But I knew now there was a hole in his life, the same shape as the one in Lily's. I met Daniel's eyes. "We all fail," I said softly. But today he wasn't alone. That counts for something. He held my gaze for a heartbeat longer than felt normal. "Maybe it counts for more than you think," he said. Before I could ask what he meant, the door opened again. The man with the shaved head stepped in. "Sir, the jet is ready," he said. "We can move whenever you are." Daniel nodded and stood up. Jake slid off the couch with him, still holding on to his jacket. He turned to me. "Shall we?" he asked. I stood too, picking up my bag and then Lily's small suitcase. "Yeah," I said. "Let's go to your plane." The words felt unreal in my mouth, like I was quoting a line from someone else's story. As we left the family room and headed toward a private part of the airport, I didn't know that this flight was only part of what he was about to offer. I thought we were just hitching a ride like catching a bus with a friend. I had no idea that he was already thinking about something much bigger. That in his mind, a new question had started to grow. If this woman would stay with my son when she has nothing to gain, what would she do if she was part of my world? I didn't know it yet, but the real surprise wasn't just the jet. It was the job and the choice that was waiting for me on the other side of the sky. The private side of the airport didn't look anything like the part one knew. No crowded gates, no lines of tired people gripping boarding passes. Just wide, quiet halls, soft lights, and polished floors that reflected everything like glass. We walked through a glass door that slid open with a soft hiss. A sign above it said, "Private Aviation." For a second I almost stopped. It felt like a space I had no right to enter. But Lily was right beside me, her eyes shining, and Jake was skipping a little now that he had his dad's hand back. So I kept moving. Outside, past another set of doors, the air was cooler. The smell of jet fuel was stronger here. A security cart rolled by with a soft whine. And there, not too far away, was a sleek white plane with silver lines along the side. It wasn't huge, but it was beautiful, like something out of a magazine. 3 steps led up to an open door where a woman in a neat uniform stood waiting. Her hair pulled back in a perfect bun. Lily squeezed my fingers so hard it almost hurt. "Mom," she whispered. "Is that it?" "I think so," I replied, still in disbelief. "That's his plane." Daniel walked ahead with Jake and one of his security guys. The other 2 stayed close behind us. It felt strange to be surrounded by people whose job, I guessed, was to protect one man and his child. The woman at the plane's door smiled, but it was a professional smile. She looked relieved when she saw Jake. "Good to see you, Mr. King," she said. "Everything is ready." "Thank you, Anna," Daniel replied. Then he turned slightly. "These are our guests. Emily and her daughter, Lily." Anna's smile became a little warmer, more real. "Welcome aboard," she said to us. "Please watch your step." The stairs up to the plane felt both short and long at the same time. My hand tightened on the rail. I could feel my heart thudding in my chest. I had never been this close to a private jet before, let alone walked onto one. Inside, it was like stepping into another world. There were no rows and rows of cramped seats. Instead, soft leather chairs faced each other with small tables between them. The carpet was thick and quiet under my shoes. Soft lights glowed in the ceiling. Everything was clean, calm, and somehow smelled faintly of coffee and something expensive I couldn't name. "Whoa," Lily breathed. Jake grinned. "Told you it was big," he said. For him this was normal. For us it was a fairy tale. "Please make yourselves comfortable," Anna said. "Can I get you anything? Water? Juice?" Lily stared at her like she'd just been offered a ticket to space. "Juice?" she asked carefully. "Of course," Anna replied. "What kind?" "Apple," Lily said, then quickly looked at me as if to check if that was okay. I nodded, half smiling. "Apple is fine." Anna smiled and moved toward a small galley area at the front. Daniel took off his jacket and handed it to one of the security men, then sat down in one of the seats. Jake climbed into the one next to him, swinging his legs a little. I hesitated, not sure where to sit. Every chair looked too nice for me, like I might break it just by touching it. "Please," Daniel said, gesturing to the seats across from him. "Seat." I guided Lily into one seat and sat next to her. I put our bags at our feet, trying to keep everything as neat as possible, like tidiness could hide the fact that I didn't belong here. Through a small window I could see other planes, the runway, the open sky. It felt like the whole world had shifted slightly to the left. Anna came back with 2 glasses of juice, real glasses, not plastic cups. "For you," she said gently to Lily and Jake. "And water for the adults?" "Yes, thank you," I said quickly. While she moved again, the door closed with a soft final thump. The security men took seats further back, buckling in with the ease of people who had done this 100 times. The pilot's voice came over a small speaker, calm and professional. "Mr. King, this is your captain. We're cleared for departure in 10. We'll be in the air shortly." "Thank you," Daniel replied, then touched a small button near his seat to turn off the intercom. He looked back at me. "I know this is unusual," he said. "I appreciate you trusting us." I let out a small laugh. "I'm not sure what else to do at this point," I said honestly. "I don't think there's a bus from the private jet terminal back to my old life." He actually laughed at that, a real short laugh that made his face look younger for a moment. "No," he said. "I suppose not." The plane started to move slowly at first, then more steadily. My stomach did a little flip. Lily pressed her face to the window, watching the ground roll by. "I've never been on a plane like this," she whispered. "Me neither," I admitted. Jake leaned over her shoulder. "Wait until it goes up," he said. "It feels like a roller coaster but softer." "Really?" she asked. "Yeah." He nodded, suddenly the expert. As the jet turned onto the runway, I gripped the armrests without meaning to. The engines grew louder, the plane vibrated. Then, with a push that pressed me gently back into my seat, we started speeding down the runway. Faster. Faster. Lily grabbed my hand now, our fingers squeezing tight together. She squealed as the pressure changed. Then, with a smooth lift, the ground fell away from us. The buildings grew smaller, the cars below turning into toys. The airport, where just an hour before I'd lost my chance at a normal flight, shrank under us. We were in the air on a Billionaire's jet, heading to the same city our cheap ticket had promised, but in a completely different way. The seatbelt sign pinged off a few minutes later. The engine settled into a steady hum. The plane leveled out and my stomach and my nerves calmed a little. Lily let out a long breath and laughed. "That was so cool," she said. "Mom, did you feel it?" "I did," I said, my own laugh shakier. Across from me, Daniel watched us with that same thoughtful expression. He wasn't looking at me like a threat now, more like a possibility. "Are you afraid of flying?" he asked. "Not really," I said. "I've just never flown like this." "Most people don't," he said simply. Jake had finished his juice and was now unbuckling his belt, with his father's nod of approval. He moved to the seat next to Lily. "Want to see something?" he asked. "What?" she asked, curious. He pointed to a little button next to her seat. "If you press that, your seat goes back," he said. "Like a bed." Her eyes went wide. "No way." "Try it," he said. She looked at me, checking. "Go ahead," I said. "Just don't break anything." She pressed the button gently, and her seat hummed softly as it reclined a little. She gasped, covering her mouth with her hand. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Mom." Jake giggled. "Told you." They started pressing buttons and laughing, discovering all the little things the jet offered. A footrest, a reading light, a tray that slid out like magic. Their voices made the plane feel less like a cold, rich person's toy and more like a strange, cozy room. Anna brought me a bottle of water and left a small bowl of snacks on the table. "Let me know if you need anything," she said. "Thank you," I murmured. When she went back to the front, Daniel leaned forward slightly. "I hope you don't mind their noise," he said. It's good to hear him laugh. I shook my head. "I don't mind at all," I said. "Kids should laugh. That's their job." He gave a soft half smile. "Your daughter is very polite," he said. "And brave. Not many children would give up a trip so easily." I looked at Lily. "She understands more than I sometimes want her to," I said. "She knows we don't have much. She knows some things aren't possible for us." "Yet she didn't complain," he observed. I shrugged. "She saw someone more scared than she was," I said. Her heart works better than my math. He nodded slowly, taking that in. Tell me about you, Emily, he said next. What's your life like? Besides supermarkets and saving for plane tickets. I hesitated, then thought, asterisk, he already knows I'm not rich. What's the point of pretending? Asterisk, I wake up at 5 a.m. most days, I said. I get Lily ready for school. I drop her off, then I go to work. I stand for 8 hours, sometimes 10 behind a register. I smile at people who don't see me. I say have a nice day to people who ignore me. I come home, help Lily with homework, make dinner, clean, fall into bed. I do it again the next day. I rubbed my hands together unconsciously. I count every cent, I continued. I check the price of everything twice. I worry about rent, about school shoes, about dentist appointments. That's my life. Nothing dramatic. Just heavy. He listened without interrupting.
No joking, no pity smile.
Just listening. And before? He asked. Before all this? Before Lily's dad left? I asked. He nodded. I thought life would be different, I said honestly. We had plans. A house. 2 cars. Trips. Normal things. Then one day he decided the weight was too much for him and left it all on me. I let out a bitter little laugh. I guess he wasn't built for heavy, I said. And you are, Daniel said. I don't know if I'm built for it, I replied. I just didn't have a choice. There was a pause. Choice, he repeated quietly. That's an interesting word. He looked out the window for a moment, watching the clouds slide past, thick and white like mountains of cotton. I grew up without many choices, he said after a moment. Small town. Poor family. I decided very young that I was going to change that. I worked. I saved. I took risks. I built things. Now, people think I have all the choices in the world. He turned back to me. But sometimes the more you have, the fewer real choices you feel you have, he said. Because every decision is tied to 100 other things. Jobs, stock, headlines, politics. It's complicated. I thought about that. To me, his life looked like endless doors he could walk through. To him, maybe they were more like walls. If I had your money, I said honestly, my only decision would be which flavor of ice cream to buy every day. He laughed again. It's not quite that simple, he said. Though I do recommend pistachio. We shared a smile, small but real. He sobered a little. When they told me my son was missing, he said quietly, all of that vanished. The money, the deals, the status, none of it mattered. All I thought was, I failed again. He looked at Jake, who was now showing Lily how to use a small screen to play games. I promised his mother I would take care of him, he said. That I would protect him. And still, I left him alone on a chair in a busy airport because I thought 5 minutes wouldn't matter. It was more than 5, I said softly. Yes, he replied, not offended. It was more than 5. He took a breath. You did what I should have made sure someone was there to do, he said. You protected him. I shifted in my seat, uncomfortable with the weight of those words. I just stood next to him, I said. And that is more than most people did, he answered. You saw him when no one else did. His eyes were intense now, but not in a scary way. In a focused way. You work at a supermarket, he said slowly. But you watch people. You notice things. You make decisions under pressure. You chose a child's safety over your own plans. Over your own money. He let those facts sit in the air. Do you always talk like that? I asked, trying to lighten the moment. Like you're in a boardroom? He blinked, then smiled slightly. Occupational hazard, he said. I evaluate people all day. It's how I decide who to hire, who to trust, who to invest in. And what am I? I asked before I could stop myself. A good investment? He met my gaze. I don't know yet, he answered honestly. But you are interesting. No one had called me that in a long time. At the supermarket I was ma'am or hey you or just invisible. Interesting was a new word. The jet continued its steady path through the sky. The kids laughed at something on the screen. The world outside was nothing but blue and white. After a while, Anna came to tell us we would land in about 30 minutes. Lily leaned against my arm, her eyes starting to droop. It had been a long, strange day. "Mom," she murmured, "are we still going to Aunt Claire's?" I brushed a strand of hair from her face. "Yes," I said. "We'll see her. It'll just be a different story to tell." She smiled sleepily at that. "Tell her we came on a rocket," she whispered. "Close enough," I replied. She drifted off for a few minutes, her head on my shoulder. When we finally started to descend, my ears popped. The ground came back into view. Buildings growing larger. Rivers turning from silver lines to real water. As the jet touched down smooth and sure, I felt something else settle too. Not my nerves. Not my life. Just a sense that whatever this was between me, a supermarket cashier, and Daniel King, a billionaire, wasn't over when we stepped off the plane. We rolled to a stop at a smaller private terminal. A black car was already waiting outside on the tarmac. Of course it was. We unbuckled, gathered our things. Jake tugged on his dad's sleeve. "Can we see them again?" he asked, glancing at me and Lily. "We will," Daniel said. He said it like a decision, not a hope. We walked down the small steps to the ground. The air in New York was different, sharper, busier, full of something that felt like static and opportunity. At the bottom of the stairs, a man in a suit was waiting, but this one looked more like an assistant than security. He held a tablet and looked slightly out of breath. "Mr. King," he said, "your car is ready, and the meeting at the hotel has been moved to." "Cancel it," Daniel said without even looking at him. The man blinked. "Sir." "I said cancel it," Daniel repeated calmly. "Reschedule for tomorrow." Something came up. The assistant nodded quickly. "Yes, sir." Daniel turned to me and Lily. "Where is your sister staying?" he asked. I told him the neighborhood and the name of the street. He listened, then turned to his assistant. "Get the address," he said. "We're taking them there." "Of course, sir," the assistant said, already typing. I felt a little dizzy. A jet. A car. A billionaire reordering his meetings. All because I stopped at a gate instead of walking past a crying boy. As we reached the car, Jake suddenly wrapped his arms around my waist in a quick hug. "Thank you," he said into my shirt. "For not leaving." My throat tightened. "You're welcome," I said, resting a hand gently on the back of his head for just a second. "You're very brave, you know that?" He pulled back and made a face. "I cried," he said. "So," I replied, "being brave doesn't mean you don't cry. It means you keep going even when you're scared." He thought about that, then nodded like he was adding it to some secret list in his mind. Lily hugged him too, a little shy. "Bye, Jake," she said. "Maybe we'll see you again." "We will," he said firmly. "Right, Dad?" Daniel smiled slightly. "Yes," he said. "I think so." He opened the car door and motioned for us to get in first. "In the car with you?" I asked, surprised. "Yes," he said. "We're going the same way. It would be strange to put you in a taxi after this." He had a point. We climbed in. The seats were soft, the air cool. The city moved outside as we drove, taller buildings rising up, the sky cut into blocks by glass and steel. I watched people at crosswalks, buses full of faces, shops with bright signs. All the normal life I was used to, just under a different sky now. For most of the drive, the kids talked in the back about cartoons and video games. Daniel and I sat in a quiet that wasn't exactly awkward but wasn't fully comfortable either. We were two people from very different planets who had somehow ended up in the same small car. Halfway there, he spoke again. "I meant it," he said. "Meant what?" I asked. "When I said what you did matters more than you think," he answered. "I've been trying to find someone I can trust with Jake for a long time." I frowned a little. "Don't you have staff?" I asked. "Nannies, babysitters, all that?" "I've had people," he said. "Some good, some terrible, most temporary. They come for the salary, for the benefits, for the name. Not for him." He paused, thinking. "You came to him with nothing to gain," he said. "You had your own child to worry about. Your own trip, your own problems. And still you stayed." He turned fully toward me now, his eyes serious. "I don't do this often," he said. "I don't trust easily. I don't offer opportunities to strangers." My heart began to beat faster, even before he said the next words. A small voice in me whispered, "Asterisk, he's going to ask you something. Be ready." But I'm going to ask you now, he said. Ask me what? I whispered. He took a breath. Would you consider working for me? He asked. For us. For Jake. The car kept rolling down the busy street. Horns honked, lights changed, people crossed. The world outside didn't pause. But inside that car, everything froze for a second. I stared at him, sure I had heard wrong. Working for you? I repeated. Yes, he said. As Jake's caretaker. Companion. Whatever title you want to use. I need someone near him who doesn't treat him like a job or a ticket. Someone who can be firm when needed. Someone who understands. Heavy. I swallowed. I'm not a nanny, I said weakly. I've never worked for a rich family. I don't know all the rules. I don't even own clothes for that. I don't care about fancy clothes, he said. You can learn the rules. You already know the only one that matters to me. Don't leave him when it gets difficult. He looked at Lily. And I know it would affect your daughter's life too, he added. School friends. I'm not asking you to decide right now. I just wanted you to know there is an option. Another life you could choose. Another life. Those two words landed in the back of my mind like seed. I thought about the supermarket. The buzzing lights, the long lines, the sore feet. I thought about the tiny apartment, the thin walls, the months of counting every coin. I thought about Lily, smart and curious, growing up with so little. Then I looked at Jake, leaning close to Lily as he talked about some game he liked. His face was open, trusting. Would we have to move? I asked quietly. Probably, he said honestly. At least closer to wherever we base ourselves most. There would be travel. Different cities. Different schools. It wouldn't be simple. But you would have help. Support. Stability. Stability, I echoed. From a man who just told me his life is complicated. He smiled softly. Complicated for me, he said. Not for you. For you it would be room to breathe. Room to breathe. I realized I hadn't really had that in years. The car slowed as we turned into a quieter street. I recognized the buildings from the photos my sister had sent me. Older brick buildings, small trees along the sidewalk, kids' bikes chained to railings. We're here, the driver said. I could see the buzzer panel from my sister's apartment, the little name tag under the number. Carter/Parker. My old life and whatever this new thing was had just met on the same corner. The car stopped. The driver got out to open the door, but I'd already unbuckled and moved. As I stepped out, the city air hit my face. A mix of exhaust, food, and spring. It was loud and real and familiar. Lily slid out after me, clutching her backpack. She spotted the building and smiled. That's Aunt Claire's place, she said. I nodded. Daniel and Jake got out too. For a moment we stood there together on the sidewalk like it was the most normal thing. Like billionaires dropped off single mothers at their sisters' apartments every day. Jake hugged Lily again. Bye, he said. Don't forget me. Never, she promised. Then he hugged me again, quick and tight. Think about it, he whispered, echoing his father's words in his own way. I pulled back and looked at Daniel. About the job, he added softly, as if reading my question. Take a few days. Talk to your sister. Think about what you want your life to look like. My assistant will send you the details. Salary, hours, everything. You can say no. I won't chase you. He reached into his jacket and took out a simple white card. He held it out to me. I took it. There was no logo, no long list of titles. Just a name, a phone number, and an email. Daniel King. I turned it over in my fingers. Felt heavier than it looked. I'm not promising anything, I said quietly. I'm not asking for a promise, he replied. Just an honest answer when you're ready. Our eyes met. Thank you, I said. For the ride. For all of this. Thank you, he answered. For seeing my son when I didn't. He got back into the car with Jake. The door closed. The engine hummed. For a second I thought he might say more. But he just gave a small nod through the window as the car pulled away. Then just like that he was gone. The street was just a street again. The planes were somewhere above. The jet was out of sight. It was just me, my daughter, and a small white card in my hand. Mom, Lily said, her eyes searching my face. Are we going to work for them? I looked up at my sister's building, then down at Lily, then at the card. I don't know yet, I said honestly. But I think our life just changed. I just don't know how much. We walked toward the buzzer, our suitcases rolling over the uneven sidewalk. My fingers kept brushing the card in my pocket, like I needed to feel it to believe any of this had happened. One morning, I had left my tiny apartment a tired supermarket cashier with too many bills and one small dream, getting my daughter on a plane for a simple visit. By evening, I'd flown on a private jet, met a billionaire, and been offered a job that could rewrite everything. I didn't know what I would say. I didn't know if I was brave enough to step into a world that big. But I knew one thing. Whatever I chose, my life would never again be as small as it had been the day before I saw a little boy crying alone at an airport gate. By the time we reached my sister's door, the whole airport felt like a dream. Lily pressed the buzzer 3 times, the way Claire had told us to in her last message. We waited. For a second, I had the strange thought that maybe no one would answer, that maybe this whole day wasn't real. Then the speaker crackled. "Yeah." My sister's voice came through, thin but familiar. "It's me," I said. "Open up." There was a sharp click and the door unlocked. We dragged our little suitcases up one flight, then another. The building smelled like dust and old paint. It was loud, TVs behind thin doors, a baby crying down the hall. Felt like home. Claire's door flew open before we even reached it. She stood there in sweatpants and a worn t-shirt, her hair pulled into a messy bun. The second she saw us, her face lit up. "Finally," she cried. "I thought your flight got delayed or something." "You have no idea," I muttered. Lily ran forward and jumped into her arms. Claire caught her easily and spun her around. "There she is." Claire laughed. "My favorite niece." "I'm your only niece," Lily giggled. "Details," Claire said, putting her down. Then her eyes moved to me. The smile softened into something more serious. "You look different," she said slowly. "Come here." I stepped into her arms and hugged her tight. For the first time all day, I let myself relax. Really relax. I felt some of the tension leak out of my shoulders. "You okay?" she murmured in my ear. "I don't know," I said truthfully. "Something happened." She pulled back and looked at me carefully. "I can see that," she said. "What did you do, Em? Rob a bank? Fall in love? Win the lottery?" "In a way," I said. "All 3. We lugged our bags inside and shut the door. The apartment was small and crowded, with toys on the floor and dishes in the sink. One of her kids, Max, barreled in from the living room and wrapped himself around Lily in a hug that nearly knocked them both over. "Come on," Claire said, pointing at the couch. "Sit. Talk." I sank into the couch, suddenly exhausted. Lily ran off with her cousins, their voices already mixing into one happy noise. Claire dropped into the armchair opposite me and tucked her feet under her. "Start from the beginning," she said. "And don't you dare leave out any details." So I told her. I told her about the airport, the long line, the crying boy at the gate. I told her about Jake's small hand in mine, the phone number that didn't work, the officers' faces when they heard his last name. I told her about Daniel King, about the family room, about the jet and the car. Claire's eyes got wider and wider. "Wait," she said, holding up a hand at one point. "Back up. Daniel King? Like Daniel King, Daniel King? The guy on the news? The one with all the buildings and that stupid tall tower with his name on it?" "Yeah," I said. "That one." She stared at me. "You're messing with me," she said. "You have to be." "I'm not," I said. "I wish I were. It would be easier to explain." I pulled the white card from my pocket and handed it to her. She looked at it, then back at me. "This is not a fake card," she said slowly. "I know," I replied. She whistled under her breath. "Damn 'em," she said. "When you miss a flight, you really miss a flight." I laughed weakly. "You have no idea," I said. Then I told her the last part. The part one was still having trouble believing. The part that felt too big to fit in the room. She listened without interrupting, her face growing more serious by the word. When I finished, she sat back and blew out a long breath. "He wants you to what?" she asked, just to make sure she'd heard right. "Work for him," I said quietly. "Be with Jake. Travel with them. Move probably. Change everything." She let that sit in the air for a moment. And you? She asked. What do you want? The question hit hard. All day I'd been thinking about what was happening, what he'd said, what it might mean. I hadn't really stopped to ask myself what I wanted. I don't know, I admitted. Part of me is screaming yes. Another part is terrified. What scares you? She asked gently. Everything, I said. Leaving my job. Leaving our apartment. Taking Lily into a world we don't understand. Working for a man like that. What if he changes his mind? What if it's not what it seems? What if I mess it up? What if I'm not enough? Claire leaned forward. Emily, she said firmly. You have been holding your life together with tape and prayers for years. You raised a smart kid alone. You work hard. You show up. You don't quit. You were enough for Lily, and today you were enough for that boy too. She paused. Do you really think you can't handle a rich guy's crazy schedule and some private school paperwork? She asked. Compared to what you've already done? I let out a half laugh, half sigh. When you say it like that, I murmured. She smiled. Look, she continued. You've been stuck in survival mode for so long you don't even know what it feels like to breathe. This man is offering you oxygen. You don't have to marry him. You don't have to be grateful forever. It's a job. A chance. You get to decide if you take it. What about Lily? I asked, my biggest fear spilling out. New school. New city. Strange house. Do I just drag her into all that? She'll follow you anywhere, Claire said softly. You know that. What she needs most is you. Safe. Less stressed. Smiling sometimes. I rubbed my eyes with my fingers. They suddenly felt heavy. I'm afraid of owing him, I said. You already owe him nothing, she replied. You helped his kid. He gave you a plane ride. That's even. This job. That's different. That's a trade. Your time, your care, your skills, your heart. For a paycheck and a different life. That's not a favor. That's work. I turned her words over in my mind. Work. Not charity. Not a gift. Work. Call him, she said. Ask him questions. Don't just say yes like he's the king of the world and you're lucky to breathe his air. Go in like you own your part of this too. I looked at the card. What if he says no because I asked too much? I asked. Then you don't want to work for him, she said simply. I sat there in silence for a minute, listening to the kids laughing in the next room, the sound of a cartoon on the TV, the hum of the city outside. What if he says yes? I whispered. She smiled. Then you pack, she said. And I babysit your plants. I laughed, a real laugh this time. Later that night, after dinner and stories and too many cookies, after the kids fell asleep in a tangled pile on the living room floor, I sat by the window with my phone in my hand and the card on my lap. The city glowed outside. Lights in windows. Cars moving. Lives happening. I stared at the number. My thumb hovered over the call button. I took a breath. Then another. Then I pressed it. The phone rang once. Twice. 3 times. I almost hung up. Then I heard his voice. Daniel King. He answered his own phone. That surprised me. Hi, I said, my voice smaller than I wanted it to be. It's Emily. From the airport. There was a tiny pause, then a change in his tone. Emily, he said. I was hoping you would call. You were. I asked, thrown off. Yes, he said. Is now a bad time? I looked around at the dark living room. The sleeping kids, my sister snoring softly in the other room. No, I said. Now is okay. Have you had time to think? He asked. A little, I said. Enough to have questions. Good, he replied. Ask them. I took another breath. What exactly would the job be? I asked. In simple words. Not business words. He chuckled softly. In simple words, he said. You'd be with Jake. You'd make sure he gets to school. You'd travel with us when needed. You'd help him with routines. Homework. Life. You'd be someone he can count on besides me and my staff. Someone whose whole world isn't money and deals. Like a nanny? I asked. More than a nanny, he said. Less than a parent. Somewhere in between. You'd be paid well. You'd have your own room, your own space, your own life. I don't want to own you. I want to hire you. The way he said that last part mattered. What about Lily? I asked. Her school, her everything. She would have a private school near wherever we live, he said. Full scholarship from me. Not tied to your job. If you decide to leave later, she keeps it for the year. She'd have tutors if she needs them. Activities. Health insurance. All of that covered. Sounded like another language. A world I'd only ever seen in movies. What about my hours? I asked. Do I work all day? All night? Do I get days off? You'd have set hours, he said. We'd agree on them. You'd have weekends off unless there's travel, in which case you'd get different days. I'm not looking for someone to live their whole life for us. I want someone who can be steady because they still have a life of their own. I bit my lip. And if I say yes, I ask slowly, and you change your mind? Or you decide I'm not fancy enough? What happens then? He was quiet for a moment. Then I give you 3 months' notice and 3 months' pay, he said. And a letter of recommendation for whatever you want to do next. I don't fire people on a whim, Emily. Not the good ones. You don't know if I'm good, I said. I know enough, he replied. And we'd find out the rest. Another pause. I'm not offering you a fairy tale, he said. There will be hard days. Tantrums. Long flights. Awkward dinners with people who think they're better than everyone else. There will be stress. There will be gossip. There will be people who look at you and wonder how you got here. I already have that, I said wryly. He actually laughed. But there will also be stability, he continued. For you. For Lily. Real health care. Real savings. A chance to think about something other than the next bill. He lowered his voice a little. And for Jake, he said. There will be one more person in his life who sees him as a boy, not a name. That matters to me. I sat there with the phone pressed to my ear and my future sitting in the space between his words. Can I be honest? I asked. Please, he said. I'm scared, I admitted. I don't know if I'll fit in your world. I don't know if people will accept me. I don't know if I'll make mistakes that embarrass you. I don't know if I'll do the right thing when things get complicated. Yes, he said simply. You will make mistakes. You will feel out of place sometimes. People will judge you. That's true. He paused. But I also know this, he added. When my son was crying in a crowd, you didn't think about any of that. You just acted. You did the right thing when it counted. I trust that more than perfect manners. I closed my eyes for a second. I don't want you to think I'm saying yes because I'm desperate, I said. Even though I kind of am. I don't, he replied. I want you to say yes because you choose this. Because you believe your life can be bigger than it is right now. Because you believe you can help my son and help yourself at the same time. The room felt very still. Emily, he said quietly, what do you want? Nobody had asked me that in a long time. Not what can you pay? Not what can you do for me? Just, what do you want? I thought about Lily's face on the jet, her wonder. I thought about Jake's grip on my hand. I thought about standing at that gate, hearing my own flight being called, and still turning away. I thought about being stuck in the same tired loop until my knees gave out and my back gave up. I want my daughter to have more than I did, I said slowly. I want to stop being afraid of the mailbox because of bills. I want to sleep without counting numbers in my head. I want to use my heart for something other than worrying. I took a breath. And I want to see what I can do if life stops choking me for a while, I added quietly. On the other end of the line, he was silent for a moment. Then come work for me, he said. Let me pay you for that heart instead of the world punishing you for it. I wiped at my eyes, surprised to find them wet. Okay, I said, my voice shaking just a little. I'll do it. I'll take the job. The words hung there, heavy and light at the same time. Thank you, he said softly. You won't regret it. I'll have my assistant send you the contract. We'll arrange housing. You'll have time to move, to adjust. We'll do this the right way. Okay, I repeated. But I have one condition. Which is? He asked, sounding more amused than worried. I'm not a decoration, I said. I'm not a charity case. I want to work. Really work. Be useful. Not just stand in the corner looking grateful. There was a short laugh on the other end. Agreed, he said. I don't hire decorations. They're terrible at meetings. We both smiled even though he couldn't see mine and I couldn't see his. After we hung up, I sat there for a long time, staring at the dark window. My reflection looked back at me. Tired eyes, worn t-shirt, hair in a loose knot. The same woman who had left home that morning. And not the same at all. Sleep didn't come easy that night. My mind ran in circles. Fear and excitement danced together until they were almost the same feeling. But in the morning when Lily crawled into bed next to me and whispered, "Mom, did you decide?" I could answer her with more peace. "Yes," I said. "We're going to try it." Her eyes sparkled. "Really?" she breathed. "We're going to live in a big house and go on a jet and—" "Hey," I cut in gently. "We're going to work. I'm going to work. You're going to school. The jet is just a weird bus." She giggled. "Okay," she said. "But it's still cool." "Yeah," I admitted. "It's still cool." Weeks later, when we stepped into Daniel King's world for real, into a large but surprisingly warm house where Jake showed Lily his room like they'd always been friends, it didn't feel like a fairy tale anymore. Felt like a job. A good one. A hard one. A life. There were bad days. There were arguments and misunderstandings. There were moments when I felt like I was drowning in someone else's expectations. There were also evenings when the four of us sat in a kitchen eating takeout and laughing at something stupid on TV, and I forgot for a moment how different our backgrounds were. But the moment that stayed with me most wasn't on the jet, or in the fancy house, or at some event where people wore clothes that cost more than my old car. It was weeks later, at a busy mall during the holiday rush, when a little girl got separated from her mom near the fountain. She stood there, tears welling up, clutching a stuffed animal. Before I could move, Jake slipped his hand into mine. "Mom," he stopped himself, corrected. "Emily, we should help her," he said. "She looks like I did." He didn't wait for me to answer. He walked toward the girl, gentle, calm, just like I had walked toward him. Her mother came running seconds later, frantic, and scooped the girl up, thanking us over and over. When they went away, Jake looked up at me. "See," he said. "We help people when they're lost. That's what we do." I smiled, feeling my chest grow warm. "Yeah," I said. "That's what we do." Sometimes one small choice in a noisy airport becomes a seed that grows into a whole new life. Sometimes saying no to your own comfort for someone else's safety opens a door money alone could never buy. I walked into that airport a tired single mother with a cheap ticket and a heavy heart. I walked out a caretaker, an employee, a woman with options I never thought I'd have. They say rich people change your life with a check. But in my story, it wasn't his money that changed everything. It was a crying 6-year-old boy at gate C-14, the sound of my own flight being called, and the decision to keep holding his hand instead of running to the plane. That's all it took. One small act of kindness. One missed flight. One billionaire father. And a different kind of future for him, for his son, and for a single mom who finally stopped being invisible and started being exactly who she was always meant to be.